It was a great show. I mean, I remember the room was really busy, the crowd was awesome. And the thing in particular was, for about a year after that, people were still talking to me about the gig. I think one thing that Trance Energy sort of made me remember was, like, people were just mentioning it to me for so long after, going, "Oh, I loved you at Trance Energy, when are you going to be back?" So I think in terms of reaction from the crowd, it was a really good one. Right, yeah, yeah. Like, definitely, I think, I mean, 2007, 2008, 2009 were three really good years. But I think Trance Energy was probably where it really started to kick off. I mean, it was one of the first really big festivals I'd played, perhaps even the first. So you guys are probably quite early in sort of picking me up for that. Um, I'm looking forward to it a lot. I mean, obviously, for any DJ in trance, main stage of Trance Energy is the kind of gig you want to play. I can't think of any sort of show you can possibly think of that has quite the stature and reputation amongst the fans. So I absolutely can't wait for it. I mean, as with all festival sets, I'll make a lot of individual edits. You tend to have a bit less time at the sort of big events, so you need to cut some tunes down, make sure you're not playing them for too long. And I've got a bunch of new stuff to test as well. I'm sort of writing an album this year, like a debut artist album. So I think the Trance Energy show is going to be a good time to test a lot of new tracks from that for the first time. So yeah, a lot of new music as well. You know what? Like, there's a lot of good stories. I mean, probably my favorite time of last year was Dance Valley. That was a great party, and these kind of like outdoor events, obviously in Europe, are not something I kind of experience too often because we don't tend to get the weather. So that was like a pretty special one for me. Yeah, I mean, the label was something I'd been wanting to do for a while. I had my previous label, which some people would know, called 5am, which would kind of closed down. My business partner wanted to sort of do other things, and so I started Garuda. We had a pretty dream start. The first release was my own two tracks, Exposure and Metropolis, which did sort of way better than any of us thought. And we've just been really happy with the way the label started. The label nights have definitely been like the surprise success of the past 12 months. I mean, we did our first night in a small club, actually, in the office where we work. It's just 400 people in January 2009. That was a complete sellout, and then for the next party we moved up to a club about three times the size. It's the main Sankey's club in Manchester, which is kind of a city where trance is not so big. It's more of like a house city and techno and sort of other styles. And we had a complete sellout for our next event in April. And I think since then we've had five parties, everyone completely sold out. So it's kind of it really surprised me how well the events have gone. We didn't kind of expect to come out of 2009 being promoters as well as running the label, but it kind of seems to have happened. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm quite careful about not rushing into doing things. I mean, since the nights have kicked off and done quite well, we've had a lot of offers from different places to do Garuda nights. But one thing I didn't want to do is do events unless we know they're going to be really good. So I think you'll probably see like maybe two or three Garuda parties outside of the UK in 2010, and then maybe a few more in 2011. But we're taking things slowly. We're not rushing into it because I think with our nights in Manchester, they've been just amazing nights. And I think we've set this certain standard of quality that people kind of expect from us now. So we kind of want to keep that when we're doing events abroad as well. I think the definition has changed very much over the past few years. I mean, for me, trance just broadly describes the sort of music I play, and it's a very broad church. It's definitely a lot more influences from house and techno and minimal that you maybe had sort of 10 years ago. But like for me, I've never quite liked pigeonholing myself as a DJ that plays trance. I mean, obviously people know you as a trance DJ, and that's fine because people need kind of a way to identify with you. But I'll play like a lot of different records in my sets, and many of those tracks wouldn't necessarily be classified as straight out trance. To me, yeah, they're just good records, and if they fit into a set and they work well for me on the dance floor, then I'm going to play them whether they'd be considered trance or not. No, definitely. I mean, those guys were kind of instrumental in the creation of the genre back in the early days, and also people like Paul Oakenfold, who had his legendary Goa mix in sort of the mid-90s, which is one of the, for me anyway, one of the seminal seminal trance mixes. I also think the UK had a lot of influence a little bit later, probably towards the end of the 90s, when the scene really exploded in the UK, and this was kind of like a different sort of trance. This was probably closer to the trance we now know today, but this style of music just kind of took the influence from the more psychedelic and progressive trance that had existed a few years earlier, and perhaps made it like a bit more appealing to the masses as a whole. And around like 99, 2000, this music was just exploding in the UK. You had clubs in every town, every week playing this style. A lot of which are, still about today, obviously, like Gate Crusher and God's Kitchen, Passion. So the UK, I think, was massively important in sort of like the creation of the scene as we know it, and still is, in fact. Yeah, that really is my number one ambition for this year. I mean, like, obviously part of what I'm going to be doing is what I'd call more of the same, right? So, like, the gig schedule is pretty great this year. I'll look at what I've got coming up in the next 12 months, and it excites me to, be going and playing so many, like, amazing clubs and festivals. So that will continue, and obviously we've got some great stuff coming up on Garuda, the label, got some great nights coming up. The one I'm most interested about is my 100th podcast. It's 4 years of running my my Gareth Emery podcast. So doing a party in March to celebrate that, which I've been looking forward to for some time. But like the main album for me is the main aim is to write an artist album. Like probably over the past 3 or 4 years, I've been making sort of 12 or 13 records a year, but it's maybe been a few of my own and then a bunch of remixes. And so many people have been saying, "When's your album coming? When are you going to do an album?" And I've been promising it since about 2006. So this is the first year I've said no more remixes, like no more projects or tracks which are not about the album. And hopefully within about 6 months it's going to be finished. I've got a lot of great ideas for it, and actually the music for the album is written. Like I have sort of 12, 13 great tracks that I've kind of composed. It's just a case of sitting down and producing it. That's what remains to be done, and that's what takes the time, actually, sort of spending the time on the engineering and the mastering side. So yeah, that's the big aim this year.